use AI to do the things that don't require you to actually think and don't require you to actually make decisions. You don't need to make decisions when you're doing research for a video topic. Ask it to accumulate the information from there, filter out what you want to know more about, filter out what you don't. Keep going until you have your video script. You don't need to make decisions on making the website. You just need a website. And then see the thing, change what you don't like, keep what you like, right? AI is going to be so helpful in anything that is a very menial, repetitive task that doesn't require any thinking. And that's what I try to hammer in on. Use AI to make your life easier, to make sure that you have more time to do the things that will actually make you some money.
Thank you for tuning into the Stack and Strength channel. I'm your host, John, and today I have the honor of being with Nikki Sharma, the host of the Orange Peel Pod on YouTube. Nikki is a smart young entrepreneur who leverages AI to build and uses Bitcoin, the best savings technology known to humanity, to protect her wealth. Nikki, welcome to the show. And for people who don't know you, would you give a brief intro to all the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So I'm Nikki. I host my own podcast that's focused on explaining Bitcoin and AI to, people in college, kind of like in their early 20s, Gen Z really. And I'm really focused on kind of providing some clarity and some light in this like really uncertain workforce that we're all graduating into and, just trying to build our careers in. So build with AI, protect with Bitcoin. That's kind of the premise of my entire channel. So we go into kind of how to monetize some of your passions and some of your hobbies and the certain things that you can do in order to make some money out of it, and then why you need to protect that wealth in Bitcoin as opposed to like a savings account or the S&P, things like that. Yeah, I have been a Bitcoiner for, I want to say maybe 8 months. Yeah, 8 months, give or take. And started my channel back in August of last year. I come from a family of Bitcoiners as well, so that's how I got into Bitcoin. But yeah, just keep things short. That's me.
Amazing. You kind of answered a few questions, which were my follow-up questions, which is, yeah, I'll come to the Gen Z part of things, which I have a few queries on. But going back to your parents, so you mentioned your parents are Bitcoiners, so your mom and dad are Bitcoiners, and they introduced you to Bitcoin at an early, like around a year ago, months to a year ago. Is that how it is?
Yeah, just about. So my dad was actually the first one in the family to kind of get orange pills. He was orange pilled really in 2024. That's when he started understanding things. And then from there on out, he got my mom into it. And I was in college. I had moved out to college in the time. I just started like my second semester of my first year. So I was starting to finally experience like the real world and learning that, money actually has a value and it's not just this abstract thing. So between that and then, what my parents were talking about at home, I was having a lot of questions. And then in January of 2025, my dad sat me down to watch What's the Problem by Joe Bryan. And that is, if you haven't seen it, that's a great explainer video of just, inflation and the fiat currency. And he has this really calm way of, telling the story. And he uses these like Pixar animated characters as well. So it's a great video. It's about 30 minutes long. It's where I try to get my friends to start with, questioning money and their Bitcoin journeys as well. So after that, it was kind of like all hands on deck with the orange pilling, and we got my younger brother into it. And then in August, I was like, let me just start the podcast, because I was already doing the work to learn the things and having the conversations in my family. So I was like, what if I just hit record on the thoughts that I was having? And then, so that's what I did. And then I started reaching out to people, got them on for interviews. Since then, we've just been full force into this Bitcoin world.
That is amazing. That was a very smart choice of starting that journey. We need plenty of Bitcoiners in the space. This is what I think. It does not matter what generation we are from or what background we're coming from. We can be a doctor, a scientist, a Sparky. It doesn't matter. Because the concept is same for everyone, right? And we need more people in the space to spread the orange glow, educate the people. All the listeners, you'd be surprised that the amount of misinformation or lack of information in this space is mind-boggling. Just the other day, I think a few weeks back, I randomly walk around the gym. Like if you follow me, I'm this channel is based on fitness and Bitcoin. That's why and strength, stack sats, and
Mhm.
strength, obviously strength. So I was walking around the gym, went to a different age group people, so from all the way from 20 to 50 with a mic, and I'm like, hey man, just a few questions, right? Like, do you know what inflation is? What do you think? That's just their perspective. I was shocked that none of them actually knew anything about it. And we're not even talking about like young people. I'm talking about business owners, multiple business owners, right? Well established people, and had no clue. And that's why I was like, and this is way before I started my channel. I was like, I need to start it. Because do try to orange pill people in my real life, just left, right, and center, wherever I am, right? To try to spread that information just like yourself. But that was kind of an opening for me. Like, I mean, I need to get, and because gym is where it happened, I'm like, I need to, yes, wealth is important, but health is equally important because what's the point of that
Yes.
wealth if we do not have a health, right? Nikki, what was the exact moment you realized after your parents obviously introduced you to Bitcoin? What was the exact moment you realized the system was rigged, and what did Bitcoin fix in your head?
So I think I wouldn't be able to pinpoint like an exact moment just because for me it was a very prolonged journey and Bitcoin appeared in multiple stages throughout my life. The first time I heard of it was in 2022 when I was writing a paper on the blockchain technology and then kind of connecting that back to the global financial crisis of 2008 for high school. It was so long ago and I didn't really care about, the macro side of Bitcoin at all. So I forgot about it for years. And then obviously it resurfaced when I was talking about it earlier with my parents getting back into it and then trying to get me back into it. But I would say that it took me finally leaving home and going to college myself and then, realizing that as the semesters were going by, my rent and my accommodation was increasing and it was increasing by, some 30 Australian for the lease. As you would know, we pay rent by the week here, so that's 120 a month, which is a lot, and it's a sizable amount. When your budget's not increasing, but you've got to allocate more to your rent. Groceries were going up. What I was paying maybe $75 for in 2020. Now I look at my grocery bill and I'm like, how did this become $90 when it's virtually the same stuff? So seeing these things and then obviously getting the conversations from my parents, watching what's the problem and like learning that inflation is actually a real thing and then just observing more things that are happening in the world, right? Governments are not going to stop printing money. You know this, I know this, your listeners probably know this as well. Seeing all of these things and then learning the importance of having a sound money was what brought me to actually believe in Bitcoin. It's completely finite. It's completely decentralized. There's no humans actually involved in the Bitcoin technology. And I'm studying computer science, so I'm someone who is very, interested by the technical side of, the Bitcoin protocol. So doing my research into that, learning about the decentralization, learning about all of the blockchain and the verification is needed by all of the nodes. That was the point where I was like, at this time, I do not see anything better than Bitcoin. And so I went full force and I was like, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin.
That is absolutely correct, right? The part of inflation that you touched there now, majority of the people just coin it as inflation, right? For me, it's just a tax that you don't really see, like an invisible tax, and that's just applied on top of the taxes that you're paying anyway. And then the $100 that would buy me stuff in, like, let's say 2015, 2020, I don't get nowhere near that.
Yeah.
I've got so my wife and I, we were blessed with a baby girl December 24th. She's 14 months now. So obviously, you tend to go shopping more for groceries
Mhm.
or rather than a couple. You buy a few things and your bill's like, and I'm like, right, it's right there. And people still don't notice it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we know it because we've noticed it really early on, but majority of the people do not take control of the financial sovereignty. And it's probably something everyone should, but that's what we're trying to help people with, spreading that knowledge, right? On how they can actually control. The times are not the same.
I think it's not that we don't notice inflation as much as it is that we're basically conditioned and lied to make us believe that it's a normal thing, right? I take econ classes in my college, and they they tell us that a 2 to 3% inflation every year is a healthy inflation to keep the economy moving. Now, that's not true, and we can get into why that's not true, and you can go down the rabbit hole of Keynesian versus Austrian economics and everything. But the fact of the matter is, if we're consistently being fed this lie that it's good for us, we're going to stop noticing it, and we're not going to see the problem, and that's where governments tend to get away with the 7 to 8% inflation that we actually have. So it's a rigged game, but they don't say don't bite the hand that feeds you for no reason.
Yeah, and I also feel that it's much more than 7 and 8%. In fact, and the government makes a point to tell you that, oh, it's just around 3. It's around 3. Oh, it's very less this year. No, it's not. How come I'm paying more for everything, right? Yeah, it is a rigged game. And you talked about nodes there, right? That is interesting. Do you run a node yourself, or do your parents run a node?
So we have some nodes at home, which is great back in my parents' house. I don't quite run one yet in my dorm. I haven't gotten around to setting it up and then obviously allocating the budget to go get one. But that is on my to-do list for this year. And if not this year, then once I graduate, then I want to be running nodes 100%.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That is something. That was the original vision of Satoshi anyway.
hmm
The whole point of decentralization, everybody running their own Bitcoin software while their node, verify the transactions, look at it yourself. The ledger
Yes.
is right there. I run a node myself, and I'm really happy that I am able to be a part of the network that I truly believe in. Yeah, I think not having it in your dorm is probably a smart idea, though, for now, just because of all the horror stories I've heard, and I've been in dorms. So yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Nikki, if you had to explain inflation to a 16-year-old, and you probably obviously are in, maybe know, in your families or just around, using one particular story from your life, what would that be?
Hmm. I think, okay, when I was 17, I got a job at Starbucks, and that was my first ever job. I was a barista for maybe 4 to 5-ish months. And every time I actually tell people that here in Australia, they're like, yeah, you worked at Starbucks, you weren't a barista. But that's besides the point. So I was noticing that, the prices of the drinks would increase very marginally as the months would go by. And every single time I'd have customers come up to me and they'd be like, why are you making your drinks more expensive? And then I would say, so it's actually not me. It's, at the time the CEO was Howard Schultz. So Howard Schultz, I think that's his name. So it's the CEO of Starbucks that's, responsible for this. But every single time, you'd get these customers who are like, what is actually happening? So that just goes to show you that if your drinks are increasing by, let's say, 10, 20 cents in just months, your drinks are increasing. The price of your food is probably increasing the same way. If you want to, let's say you go to Chipotle and you're getting a Chipotle bowl, that is probably increasing the same amount. That's already 40 cents more that you're paying for the same stuff, effectively. Let's look at your grocery bills. The price of groceries, let's take the price of like vegetables, for example, probably increasing at the same rate. Maybe it's 5 to 10 cents. That's what, 50 cents more that you're paying as in just 4 months? Compound this over years, right? Just in 12 months, you'd already be paying $1.50 extra. $1.50 extra for 3 years. Where does that take you? That takes you $4.50. Now, that doesn't sound like a big
Yeah.
number, but things are getting more expensive. And you need to wake up and you need to start realizing that. So I think examples is really just the best way to, make inflation make sense to a young person, because I'll be frank with you, we don't care about what the governments are doing, right? You could go talk to us about the M2 money supply. We don't care. We feel things more than we, you know, like to know about them.
100%.
So that's how I would go about doing it. That's how I went about doing it with my brother as well. We kind of showed him things and we're like, have you connected the dots yet? That's how I connected the dots. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Nice. Is that your younger brother?
Yes, yes. So he's 17.
Nice. Orange peeling really early on, man. Hats off to your parents. Like, amazing job, mom and dad. If you're listening to this, when we were growing up, I'm a millennial. When we were growing up, I was being taught economics and finance by teachers and professors who were probably in needy debt, right, themselves. And, they just reading off something from something that they have heard. So not really any real world application, no practical, experience as such. And that just is what circle is. Nobody teaches you, nobody tries to make you understand why are things rising, right? Like, why are the prices
Yes.
rising? What's happening? Why is the money losing value? Because they don't know the answer themselves. And yeah, so really, really amazing. Great, great job, Nikki. That's really amazing. You've been told probably this zillion times, but you are way ahead of your curve, right? Only in terms of the age. Like, you're 19 right now, and you are less than half my age. So what that means is, when I was 19, I had nowhere any kind of idea on things. Well, Bitcoin never existed back then, but when I was 19, but that's another story. But even if it was like, it was there after a couple of years, I still wasn't there, right? It came much later. I first dealt with Bitcoin in 2014, but like an extremely smart man, I ignored it and ignored it and didn't really pay much attention. It was just magic internet money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, came into my notice in 2017. And another wise man just ignored, right? 2020 was when it really hit me. And 2020 was when I went down that track, right? 2020 was but then again, like a kid in a candy store, I did get distracted by the shiny objects in the crypto degen
Mhm.
casino, went down that road, did make quite some uh, profits out there, but then I realized everything else is a scam.
Yeah. Yeah,
Everything else is
absolutely.
noise. Everything else is scam. Get out of there. So if you're listening to this, guys, stay away from altcoins, anything else that is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin,
100%.
not crypto. Is Gen Z anti work, or they just anti pointless work?
So this is a question that actually I get asked quite a bit when, I talk to older Bitcoiners. So Gen Z is not lazy. There's this narrative that, Gen Z doesn't want to work, Gen Z doesn't want to actually they just want to live off of like stimulus checks or money from the government. That is not true. But the fact of the matter is, it takes more work to get to the same like baseline that the generations before us started at. Take the example of buying a home. In the 1980s, I just released a video where I was talking about this, but in the 1980s, average home, like first time homeowner age was about 29, right? That means like at 22, you probably saved up for 7 years, and 29, you were able to buy your first house. In the reports that were just released last year, the average homeowner age was 40. So that's like over a decade more, right?
Take
So
it low.
for us, it's basically impossible to even think about buying a home, buying a car,
Mm,
starting families, getting married. And, that is something that is sold to us under this package of the American or the Australian dream, being able to live a nice, quiet, simple life. That's just not possible anymore with, a reasonable amount of money. You need to work harder for more money so you can get to that same baseline. So
mm,
Gen Z knows this, right? Which is why we've
mm,
adopted this kind of strategy of financial nihilism. And all that's created is a very quick, like instant gratification culture amongst us, where we just want to
mm,
make money and we want to make money fast so we can go on and do the things that we actually want to do with our lives. So that's why, you've probably seen a rise in gambling or sports
mm.
betting in Gen
Yeah.
Z. That's just because we want more money. There's even a
Mm.
rise in crypto. Not now.
Yeah.
There is a rise in Bitcoin, but there's a bigger rise in crypto and altcoins
Mm.
because everyone sees these and they're like, this is going to be the next Bitcoin. We can make
Yep.
money quick. Go in, make some money, cash out. So It's not that Gen Z is anti-work. We definitely do want to work, right? A lot of us have big dreams. It's just that it takes more money now to live, and we need to get that money. We so a lot of my friends are working part-time jobs and while they're studying here in college. And I asked them what they do with their money once they get it. Do they just leave it in their bank account? Some of them are paid in cash, so I'm like, do you just leave the cash? And the overwhelming answer is that they just leave it in their bank accounts. Now, in Australia, if you're an international student, you don't get interest on your bank account. So it's interest free, and inflation is taking away 3% every year. So that money is basically just being worth less and less every single day. So I asked them, have you ever thought about investing? Have you ever thought about how to grow your money using your money? And, the overwhelming answer that I get is yes, but it seems too complicated. So I asked them why it felt so complicated. And they're like, a lot of people are just like, put the money into the stock market and then wait. But we don't have time to wait. And to that, I absolutely agree, right? The way that I like to paint Bitcoin is not as something to make your money in, but it's as something to protect your wealth. It's to protect your money while you focus on other ways using AI. That's what I talk about on my channel, to actually get some income. So yeah, I know I've drifted off the question quite a bit here, but to sum things up, like, we're absolutely not anti-work.
Okay. Right. Nikki just saved the Gen Z from my next questions. That's okay. Good stuff. No, yeah, I actually kind of agree to that, and I get it. See, and it's generalized. It's a very generalized opinion if anyone says that, oh, Gen Z is like that, or, boomers are lucky, or millennials. So I'll give an example. When my daughter was born at the tail end of the alpha, so technically 2 weeks short of beta generation, right? So she'll grow up with the beta generation. When they will probably be your age or slightly older than, or let's say in the 30s, right? I will be a boomer for them. Like, think about it, right? A millennial for a beta would be a boomer. What a boomer is for me, right? And they may say, these millennials, they got lucky. Fact of the matter is, no, we went through some crazy volatility, man. But we stood our ground, right? We believed in the protocol. We believed in the code. We believed in the fundamentals that nothing has changed. A lot of narratives come and go. A lot of FUD goes in through. Right now, we have 10,000 FUD, just on top. Every other day, something's new. Nothing changes. Tick tock, next block. We stack sats, we continue to stack sats. And that conviction, right? You have to have rock solid conviction, power of diamond hands. That is, it may seem very, these guys were lucky. So every generation, that goes further ahead, usually every generation is better than the previous one. That's how it is. And talking about that, it's very interesting. Like the other day, my wife shared an article with me, and obviously, guys, take no offense here. This is not my opinion or my wife's opinion. This was an article, and it was about Gen Z, right? And it stated that Gen Z is probably the only generation that's dumber than the last generation. And again, guys, it's just an article. Could be written by a dude who broke up or had a bad rough day, whatever. Yeah, but the points in that was because Gen Z grew up in they grew up like with app native, like with phones and tabs and screens and stuff, right? And millennials did not grow up like that, because when you guys have access to that, when you're growing up on that, your attention span, your engagement, your reasoning process changes very, very quick than for someone who's probably read books or who's actually gone out and did so, right? And that's a fact. It's a fact. Nothing wrong with that. And I cannot generalize that everyone is like that, but that plays an effect. It conditions your mind over a period of time. You tend to lose focus from one thing very fast, and you are chasing that instant gratification. And it's not just Gen Z that's chasing instant gratification, right? I know like heaps of millennials do. Every person do who wants to get rich quick, right? It's a get rich quick idea that the government sells you. And that's why do you mentioned gambling, lottery. Why do these things, they are so much success? Because people are in that dopamine hit that, oh yes, I'm going to win this, and I'm going to get millions, and yes, well, 9 out of 10 times a casino will win, guys.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
and
There's no
yeah, and
winner
again,
except the house.
always, always. And if you're in the delusion that nope, this time I'm going to beat the house, well, either you have to be really good at reading numbers or a pro, or no, sorry, just throw your money in there. How do you orange pill someone young, such as yourself or younger than yourself, without becoming too preachy or tribal?
I think, in all honesty, the goal is to not be preachy at all. What I like to say to, people that ask me this question is when you're talking to someone who is Gen Z or even younger, do not start with Bitcoin. What you want to start with is inspiring Bitcoin curiosity. So what I mean by that is ask them questions about money. When I talk to my friends, I ask them if they're earning, what they do with the money that they're earning, if they've thought about investing, where do they invest? Have they considered starting a Roth IRA? Have they considered just investing in index funds from there? Have you heard about crypto? What have you heard about crypto? So what you need to do is you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So they have to
Yeah.
get that desire to drink from within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So show them what the problem is, talk about the problem, and then be like, so there's this thing, it's called Bitcoin, and just hear me out for a second. Why don't you do some research into it? People need to do their own research. People need to verify for themselves, right? In Bitcoin, we say don't trust, verify. You need that desire to learn about Bitcoin, that desire to start saving in it has to come from within you. My dad tried to tell me probably 100 times over to start caring about Bitcoin. I didn't listen until I felt like I needed to listen many, many times later, right? So this is something that I asked my dad as well. We do these weekly segments over on my channel. And I think in episode number 2 that we did together, I asked him, how did he go about orange pilling me? And what he said was he just kept talking about money. He just kept talking about what was going on in the world, why money is the root of the problem. What would
Mm-hmm.
happen if we had a sound money? And then he'd be like, so Bitcoin actually is a sound money. Just kept repeating that over and over and over until it's kind of instilled in it was kind of instilled in my head, and I was like, okay, I know what the problem is, and my dad keeps
Mm-hmm.
talking about Bitcoin. Let me just take a look. Once I took the look, I understood, and now I'm here. I did the same thing to one of my friends. When she took a look, she understood, and now she's here. I actually did a video where I orange pilled her live on my channel, and we started talking about some of these things. So I think that's a really great example of what conversations with Gen Z need to look like, because we don't want lectures. We don't want any preaching. So just asking questions, getting them to think for themselves is the most important part.
I was having a chat with someone who's is a very intelligent person, and they invest pretty much like a diversified portfolio. Had some
Mhm.
little bit some sats and some other assets, other digital assets too. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. If I was in your case, then I was like, if I was in your place, and I'm not going to tell you to do anything, I can't give you any financial advice, but if I'm in your position, I will actually sell the other digital assets and actually move them to BTC. And where are you keeping them now? So he's like, oh, it's still on that XYZ exchange that he mentioned. And I was like, how long has it been there? So he's like, oh, I don't know, since the time I've opened it, right? So majority of the masses are still clueless that you shouldn't be leaving anything on your exchange, right? I'm a big proponent of self-custody, just like yourself. And my next thing was, bro, it's equivalent to you having no digital assets. If you think you have control over this, then that is just an illusion. If something happens to the exchange tomorrow, and it has happened to many exchanges in the past, they will shut down. Your login, username, and password will be obsolete. It would not let you log in. You would not have access to anything that you own. Till the time you don't have access to your private keys in your cold wallet, you don't own anything, right? They're like, oh, I never
Yeah.
knew that.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember when the FTX crash happened or Terra Luna collapse happened.
Mhm.
I had I had majority of my things off in the cold wallet, but I did have some on the exchanges, just because those was for daily. I would have some trades going on and stuff back then. Then, boom! All of a sudden, I couldn't log in.
Gosh.
Same with Celsius. Same with BlockFi. Mr. Mashinsky scammed majority of the people. So yeah, guys, never trust any third party, right? That is the beauty about it. Bitcoin is digital property. You need to control your own property. It's like you giving your bank account password to someone on the street. Would you do that? You wouldn't do that. So why is it any different with the world's hardest money?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that's a little we Gen Z has the advantage of in this, aspect is that we are digitally native. So it is very easy for us to understand technologies. So getting a cold card set up, for example, is much simpler for us than it is for, let's say, someone who's a boomer and trying to buy some Bitcoin, which is why I think self custody really isn't a problem explaining for Gen Z. Because I tell my friends, I'm like, if you're not ready to own your Bitcoin yourself, you are not ready to buy Bitcoin. So
Mm.
just stay off until you trust yourself to hold it in a physical wallet. So that part's pretty cool, and I do think, obviously being digitally native has its drawbacks, but the fact that we're so easily adapted to new technologies, self-custody, we're easily
Mm.
adapted to an AI world is probably our greatest strength.
Yeah, and that's spot on. And just exactly like yourself, it would be same for Generation Alpha, Generation Beta,
Mhm.
and so on and so
Yeah,
forth, because
absolutely.
these kids are going to be AI native. Like you guys were
Yes, I
app
think
native, they're AI native generation, right? They're growing up
yeah.
with AI. In any corner of, by whatever angle I cannot think that these guys will buy bricks of gold or or silver coins or anything that is, you know, it has to be it has to be digital for people who
Yeah,
transact in that age, right? It
100%.
is just natural. And
Yep.
and if we're going into an AI native age, we have agentic AI will take over, right? They would want a permissionless, trustless, proven money that could be verified in transactions that they could do between them and do it. They don't need a middleman, an authority to stand there and be the gatekeeper. They'll just do that
Yeah.
among themselves. And what would they choose? They would choose the asset that has continuously performed without fail from day one, from January 3rd, 2009. That is Bitcoin. And this is why I try to tell people that we are in the middle of a massive paradigm shift, a huge transfer in wealth happening right now, similar to what happened when the internet came over or the email came over or the
Yes.
fax machines got replaced or when the automobiles came when horses were on, right? People initially would be very resistant to the change and would not understand it. Mostly people are resistant, so they try what they cannot understand, they do not delve into it and they ignore it. But they only
Mhm.
could ignore it to a point in time when they have to accept it and there is no other choice. But what happens is at that point of time, it gets too late and you probably cannot afford the amount of sats that you could afford today comfortably. Bitcoin is governed by code. It is destined to go up. It is not just a number go up technology, but it is programmed like that, right? We cannot do price predictions. We cannot do which year will do what, but it will. One day it will be 250K, 500K, a million, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, so on and so forth. Till the time dollars are there, I think the price is infinity, right? If you're
Yeah,
comparing it with dollars.
100%.
If it's a $10 million a coin, zero point 0.1 BTC is $1 million. How many people can have 10 million sats? Like, the number keeps dwindling, reducing, and you don't want to be in that space. And this is why we are trying to help people. You want to get in there early. People think, oh, so late. It's already at that unit buyers. That is, oh my God, I don't have 68,000 US dollars. You don't need 68,000 US dollars. Do you have $10? Do you have 20? Do you have 5? Do you have 50, 100? That's based on your
Yes.
appetite. You do not need a whole Bitcoin. You just need fractions of it. That's why we call it sats.
Mhm.
And yeah, just amazing. Shifting gears, AI, and this is where you come in, and this is guys, Nikki's forte, right? So you are into this. Your advantage, AI plus Bitcoin. You using that building advantage. AI gives Gen Z the leverage. Bitcoin is giving Gen Z a savings foundation. You are combining them. You're building it, distributing it, and then stacking sets.
Yes.
If you were starting from zero today with any knowledge in that space or experience, what would you build with AI in 30 days to earn sats? Hmm.
So it
Generous
really
time
depends
frame.
on yeah. It's a very generous time frame actually. So let's take this. Let's take my friend for example. She is really into making clothes, and she wants to set up her label and start selling some of them. Now, it's taken her a very long time. She first talked to me about this idea probably months ago, and I, tried was like, "Hey, why don't you use AI to, build some of the website, handle some of the operational tasks?" She's like, "No, I think I'm going to try to get somebody to do it." And I was like, "Okay, fair." Had she used AI, let's say she used Claude AI to make the website, would have taken her 10 hours. Now, the website is set up. She has, the designs that she wants. She has them up on her website and everything. Now, what she needs to do is she needs to create a database to store all of her inventory, which customer wants what, keep track of the logistics of things, right? She can go in and she can set up a Claude bot. Now, the OpenClaw stuff, I don't know if you've heard, but this bot is absolutely incredible. You can
I do.
connect to
Yep. It is just
yes. So
mind-boggling.
it is insane, right? It is basically your own personal assistant. That took when my dad was setting it up for us, he took a weekend to get it done. So in 10 hours, you've got your website, you've got your personal assistant set up that keeps track of your logistics. You're basically ready to start taking orders. Now you're taking orders and, you orders for one thing, and now that thing has gone sold out. You don't need to go market yourself. Your personal assistant can do that for you. Your bot can do that for you. So this is what I'm trying to say. AI expedites your way to your end goal by an like such a huge amount. What would have taken you say 30 days to set up with coding the website, keeping track of inventory, reaching out to clients and influencers to promote the brand, you can get done in, let's say, 1 week. You've got a deployable, ready to go business. So maybe that's not your thing. Maybe what you want to do is you want to set up a subscription based weekly newsletter of some sort because you're really into writing. I have a lot of friends that are into writing and they, upload to Substack. You can create your own website. You can create your own subscription platform and can $30 a month or whatever it is. Just keep pushing out your articles. You don't have to use AI to write. You can use AI to write. I think there are some great ways to get AI to write the articles that you want to do. I make content. I use AI for my content all the time. What I don't do is make AI generated videos and upload them because I don't think that's fun. That's not the direction I want my content to go in. But I use AI all the time to plan things, to find potential guests, to do my research, to, give me links and stuff. Obviously, I go in and verify that all the information is correct, but it makes the process of planning and scripting out my content so much faster, so much simpler. And that's really what I want to say here. Use AI to do the things that don't require you to actually think and don't require you to actually make decisions. You don't need to make decisions when you're doing research for a video topic. Ask it to accumulate the information from there, filter out what you want to know more about, filter out what you don't. Keep going until you have your video script. You don't need to make decisions on making the website. You just need a website. And then see the thing, change what you don't like, keep what you like, right? AI is going to be so helpful in anything that is a very menial, repetitive task that doesn't require any thinking. And that's what I try to hammer in on. Use AI to make your life easier, to make sure that you have more time to do the things that will actually make you some money. So, yeah, I hope that made sense. I thought, again, examples, I think is the best way to put things into perspective.
100%. And that is this. It does make sense. Guys, if you're still just using Chat GPT or Gemini or various platforms just for as your search engine, then you're probably it's similar to using fax machines when email was already there today. If I want to say it in where the tech has advanced and at the speed it's advancing, so OpenClaw is amazing. It's amazing. It's insane. What people would take 5 weeks. A team of 4 people would take 5 weeks. You could probably get that done yourself in like a few hours. And that's, you don't have to be a software engineer. You do not need to know code. That I think that field is going to get just obsolete.
Yes.
Those jobs will get redundant. What are the top 3 AI workflows that you use weekly for research or scripting, editing, clipping, thumbnails?
Yeah, so I like to play around with making my own apps and making my own programs. That's my first use case for AI. So for that, I use Claude AI. Claude AI with MCP with my Obsidian that has a lot of, like my uni notes and stuff. So I can use that as the data for all of the apps that I want to create to help me study. That's my number one thing. Second, obviously, we've talked about how using ChatGPT, Gemini is not the most technologically advanced things. I still use them as chatbots because I need to use them as search
Don't take me
engines.
wrong. I use them too. What I was trying to say is
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
not
If that's
the
what you're
only
only
thing
using.
available right.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yes. Yeah.
Guys, I was not saying that you guys are idiots. Stop using that. No. I use them too. I use Perplexity as well. Yeah, please go ahead.
So using Gemini specifically to go in, see what the, trending news is about Bitcoin right now, analyzes YouTube, it looks at all the articles, all the data that is on Google, right? I do the same thing with Grok. I go and ask, what are people on X talking about Bitcoin right now? And, what are the viral posts? I go look at the viral posts and I'm like, oh, this is an interesting point. Let's make a video talking about it. That's how I found the Matt Schumer article that was going viral last week. And then my dad and I talked about it on our weekly segments as well. And then the last use case I would say is using Nano Banana, and I use Google Whisk to make my thumbnails because I am not an artistic person at all. It is very, very hard for me to work with Canva and come up with ideas and make things look good. So being able to just go into Whisk, explain what I want, go into Nano Banana, explain what I want, just provide a picture of myself, and then get that back in just a few seconds is pretty cool. And it saves me so much time. And then obviously there are other things I use it for, right? I use it to help me study. I use it to make up some practice questions, to quiz me on things. So yeah, my dad has set up another AI bot using OpenClaw that sends us daily reminders at like 10 p.m. It's my 10 p.m. And it's just got a summary of all the stuff that's happened in Bitcoin and AI today. Bitcoin and AI news and stuff. So that stuff is really great. He recently set up another one, and that one is acting as our personal assistant that we've got on Telegram. I was talking to it earlier this morning about planning a trip down to Wilson's prom for next week and what that would look like. I'm someone who talks to AI. I'm someone who likes to use it to think through my thoughts and get action plans written down. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. Nothing super complicated. I know a lot of other Bitcoiners have insane AI workflows set up. I'm not there yet. I use it for the things that I actually need to use it for.
And that's what it's for. Like you want to take advantage of the tech to the betterment of your existing lifestyle.
Yep.
Amazing. Now, in your opinion, do you think AI makes reality cheaper to fake? What does proof for you mean in a world of deep fakes? We can't really see across social media, internet, everything. You can't really trust. Yeah.
Yeah. So AI really is abundance, right? It is so easy to make things up, to trick people, to deceive using AI, but at the end of the day, AI is a tool, right? So yes, you can put regulations on it. We've got a lot of regulations now across the world about using AI for deepfakes, using it to make videos of other people. But this just comes down to the principle of don't trust things as you see them, verify them, right? Let's take the example of the news and media years ago. People report all kinds of stuff. On social media, you can probably find maybe 1,000 posts telling you that going to McDonald's and eating nuggets and fries is bad for you and it's going to cause cancer. Does that mean it's true just because it's on the internet, right? It's the same thing with AI. Just because AI is saying something, does that mean it's really true? So I think it's just the same principle of you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to actually do the work and find out if what you're seeing is true. If you see a video of someone and they're saying something,
Mm,
if you see a video of me out on X or something and I'm
mm,
saying, go buy crypto, go buy Ethereum, I'm
mm.
absolutely not saying that. Go do your research, right? Did I actually say that? Is it on my profile? Is it anywhere on my YouTube? It's the same principle. So to this, I really have to say, yeah, like it is easier now to make things up and to lie and to deceive, but it got easier with the introduction of social media. It got easier with the
Mm.
introduction of the internet. It's been people have been lying and deceiving since the beginning of the human race. That's not going to change. So do the things that we've always done and just continue to verify, continue to critical think.
Do you teach people? How do you teach people to verify claims? I mean, in the same way that we can verify code.
I think this really just goes back to elementary school, middle school, right? When we used to learn to write essays and do our research for them. Our teachers would always say, "Are you looking at a credible source or are you looking at a, respectable source or reliable source?" It's the same thing with AI. If, you're seeing a video on X of Taylor Swift saying something completely outrageous, is that coming from
Hmm.
Taylor Swift's account or is that coming from somebody else's account? Is it anywhere else on any other news sites? Is it on her social media anywhere else? Right? It's the same thing. You got to look at the source of where that the information is coming from and then just evaluate the same way you would evaluate like a website for a paper that you were writing in school. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is something that we really have to teach people because we already know it, right? Verification is something that we learned so early on. It's just you need to know the principle that
Mm.
the principle actually applies to your daily life and it's not just about writing essays. It's not just about like doing your homework. It's every single thing you need to be verifying.
Yeah, it's personally not very specific to your generation or generation after you because you guys grew up in an environment where you do this verification. But for generations prior to you, right? And
Yeah.
it's more like because they did not probably go through the same process in terms of learning of what you would do
Mhm.
in school and uni. So I would always say that don't trust the first thing that you see or read, even if it comes from a very credible source, you want to go and verify that information through multiple credible sources, right? You don't want to listen to some dude with orange glasses on the internet talking about Bitcoin and fitness, or a girl whose pod is called Orange Peel Pod. No, you should. But verify it, right? Verify it.
Yeah.
Go spend your time and energy. Do your due diligence, right? Read books, listen to podcasts, get more information. We're just trying to promote that. So yes, I agree to what you said. Nikki, you've discussed previously about leverage. You've talked about leverage. I think liquidations, ETFs, and institutions
Yes. Yes.
shaking out retail hands or weak hands, if you put it like that. What would be the simplest explanation of liquidations that a newbie, a normie will never forget?
Gosh. Okay. I think all I'm going to say here is when BlackRock is mass buying something, things are about to get really bad if you're not owning that thing. In the past, BlackRock has bought out so much real estate. What did we see after that? We saw a boom in real estate. We saw everyone being like, "Yes, you need to own properties, properties, properties." BlackRock is currently buying Bitcoin. And they're buying Bitcoin at a scale that nobody else is buying Bitcoin. Not even Strategy is coming close to BlackRock numbers. And Strategy to us is a whale. This is like a mega whale. This is like a whale on steroids, right? It's insane.
I think they're
So,
both the whale on steroids, but yeah.
yeah, fair. So, when institutions are getting behind something, that's when you know it's about to blow up. So, if you are someone who is familiar with the stock market, who is into investing, you would know this. But if you're someone who you gotta be, all I have to say is you gotta know about the power that these institutions hold, and you have to know that
Yeah.
Bitcoin is finite and there will be a point, maybe not now, but there will be a point in the future where there is no more Bitcoin left to buy at a reasonable price, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's what do you say? How do you put it? It's not even like if. There's no if in there. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just a matter of time. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
And
I
for
do
those
think that
people,
there will
yeah,
always be Bitcoin to buy as
yeah,
long as you are willing to pay. I do think somebody in the world is always going to be willing to sell their Bitcoin. But right now, all the Bitcoin hasn't even been mined, right?
mm,
So theoretically, like the supply, or not even theoretically, the supply in circulation is not the full supply. But once it is the full supply, what are you going to do? And that's what I have to say.
yeah. I agree to a bit. But the supply comes in. My angle would be that the supply would work if the people holding the coins are willing to sell their coins. I mean, there might be this much
Yeah,
supply outside, but how much is available for sale on exchanges or on the OTC desk? And a
that
point
is true.
when of time when there's not enough Bitcoin on exchanges to sell or on OTC
Hmm.
desks, then let's say a multi-billionaire who wants to have the hardest asset, a scarce asset, he will pay you and I, let's say for example, the amount of money that we wish to sell it at, so he or she
Yeah.
could purchase that, right? It's
Yes.
just as simple as that. Why do people buy these expensive antique paintings? That's the only reason, because there's just not enough, and they
Yep.
want to have it, and that's just the point. So yeah, supply and demand, yeah, 100%. This, guys, just going back to the point what Nikki mentioned. For those who don't know, BlackRock is the largest hedge fund manager in the world. Larry Fink, the CEO, publicly came many years ago and actually criticized Bitcoin, was not a fan of Bitcoin, and said, nope, we do not tell anyone in our clientele to have it in their portfolio, right? And a few years later, he shifted gears and he said, nope, now we have asked our clients that you have the option of adding Bitcoin to their portfolio. And since that time on, BlackRock has been hoarding and accumulating Bitcoin, adding it to their balance
Yep.
sheets at a very, very fast pace. It's only that you and I, we don't see it like that, right? They're probably doing OTC transactions. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy doing the same things. They do their buys OTC, and that's why you don't see this massive price fluctuations on the daily candles. They're
Yes.
still stacking it. Sovereign nation states are stacking it. Countries are stacking it. Bhutan has been mining Bitcoin, I don't know, since the beginning of time. They've been using renewable energy, and they have, I don't know how much they hold, but they hold a significant chunk, right? El Salvador is the first proper Bitcoin economy. UAE is very Bitcoin focused, crypto focused. United States, one day, if they decide to make it the strategic reserve, it's just a matter of time. And it will be, it may not happen like overnight, but when it happens, the price will go vertical.
Yes.
And it is because we are measuring it in terms of fiat, in terms of currency. The value will just go. Everything, every asset you own on this planet will fall against Bitcoin. The perfect example, which I give to know people who are outside the space and something that they can understand, is with the house. The house that I used to have, that we purchased first, at one point of time, it used to cost like 70 to 80 BTC, right? To buy that, whenever
Yes.
that I had to buy. Today, it costs around like Aussie dollars, probably around 9, or today's price, like let's say 8 or 9 or 10. And at some point of time, it was 500 BTC, 5,000, 50,000, million Bitcoin, right? For a few years down the line, it would be 2, 1, 0.5, 0.1, 0.01.
Yes.
And that is the way people to understand. Do you believe that? But because of these institutions, because of this the ETF era, is it bullish for Bitcoin, or is it just a whole paper games happening? There's a lot of paper money, paper Bitcoin being supplied, and there's a new layer of Bitcoin being sold, and that's what's crossing. Or is it a both? Is it both for you?
Yeah, so I am going to just preface this by saying this is absolutely not my area of expertise, and everything that I know is everything that I can sort of piece together from what I see on the internet. I'm going to be honest when I say I think ETFs are a good thing, only in the sense that they increase the number of people that can have Bitcoin exposure. Now, I agree that buying, IBIT is not the same thing as buying Bitcoin, but if I wanted my grandma, right? She lives in India. She's like 65 years old and has absolutely no technological skills. It's actually worrying to an extent how susceptible, she can be to technology. Now, if I want her to buy some Bitcoin, getting her to sign up for an exchange, getting her to sign up for River or Strike or something is going to be very, very difficult. She doesn't trust them. But she can trust BlackRock. She can trust Fidelity. These have been around for so many years, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
at least that way, if she buys IBIT, she can have some Bitcoin exposure. It's the same way, right? People of the older generation are not going to trust these new exchanges. They're not going to trust Robinhood or any of like the new banks, but they are going to trust the ones that have been around for years. So that's why I think that they're
Fair
a
enough.
good thing. I think for my generation, it doesn't make any sense. If you can buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. If you can't buy Bitcoin, let's say, you're in a like a retirement fund or something and you don't have the option to buy Bitcoin, you probably have the option to buy IBIT or FBTC. Buy that. That's what I have to say. Again, it's not my area of expertise, not something that I spend a lot of time looking into, but from what
Fair
I've
enough.
pieced together from the conversations my dad and I have had, because we did an episode on this, so he's a lot
Oh,
more
okay.
knowledgeable on this
Right. topic.
Yeah, these are kind of some of the things that we were talking about.
I need to catch Jay for my
Yes, you
next
do.
one.
Yes.
And that's a point that you touched that is absolutely right? Like now, your grandma at that age and the exposure, the technical exposure or the tech exposure that she has is obviously very different
Yeah.
to the people like you and I. We've come from
Yeah.
different timelines, right? And that's very natural. And things are scary, right? Something that you don't understand is very scary. You don't want to trust new things.
Mm-hmm.
Something like having exposure to Bitcoin directly is out of the world for them.
Yeah.
If self custody, that is just not happening with them because that's something that
100%.
people are scared with. What do you mean? I have to take care of these numbers? I have to remember these numbers? I have to keep them in a safe? Oh no, that's too much. What does self custody teach you per se psychologically in terms of
Oh, this is a good
like
question. I think it teaches me about the importance of ownership and responsibility, right? Responsibility in the sense that if I forget my seed phrase, my Bitcoin's gone. So it is entirely on me if I forget it and if I lose the wallet, if I lose my metal backup, right? If I lose my keys. So that's what it teaches me about responsibility. But we currently live in an era where we don't own anything, right? This is applicable to media, for example. If you want to watch a movie, are you actually going out and buying that movie, or are you just searching it up on Netflix or Disney Plus or something? You don't own any of that. If I want to read a book, I just head to the library and I see if I can borrow it. I don't actually own many books at all. So, same thing. Gen Z isn't owning houses. We're not owning assets. We are renting. We are investing in what? ETH and XRP and Solana. These things don't actually matter, right? We don't own anything. But it is so important to hold your keys so that you are the only person that's responsible for your Bitcoin. Honestly, I think self-custody gives me the comfort that my financial future is in my hands, which I think is the biggest thing, right? Nobody has access to my seed phrase. Nobody has access to my keys or anything, the wallet or anything. Only I do. And that's very, very comforting in a way. It's separate from what happens in the government. It's separate from what happens in the world. It's even separate from what happens like in my family or my personal relationships or anything. It's just representative of what happens to me. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
No, spot on. Absolutely. I would say the same. Accountability, ownership, patience, responsibility, humility.
Yes.
Bitcoin really, if you have these traits, I personally believe that Bitcoin amplifies these traits for you. And it just sets you up with a low time preference, with a long term mindset. Slowly takes away the instant gratification, the need for instant gratification away. No shortcut strategy. Yep. Do you think there's a minimum viable self custody setup for beginners? Do you
I
need?
think
I'm just talking about Gen Z here.
as I said earlier, if you're Gen Z and you're thinking about buying Bitcoin, but you're not ready to custody it yourself, you're not ready to buy Bitcoin. So I think the absolute minimum that I would say is, at least have a hot wallet. At least get your
Mm,
your Bitcoin on, Blue Wallet or something like that.
yeah.
Now, obviously, I don't recommend hot wallets. I still think
Yeah.
it's a lot better
Same.
to have it in a cold card or have it, Ledger or Treasure or whatever it is. At least don't have it on the exchange. At least hold your keys. At the very least, have ownership of your Bitcoin. So that I would say is my bare minimum. And if you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready to buy Bitcoin whatsoever. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Exactly. Similar like Nikki, I'm not a proponent of hot wallets either. But well, if it's the option between holding it on an exchange and a hot wallet, then definitely a hot wallet. If it's the option between a hot and cold, then there's no comparison. It's always cold and not connected, air gapped, not even connected to the internet. That's what you want.
Yes.
Yes, plenty of ways to do that. Plenty of wallets. You can just search yourself and check which wallet you want based on, because wallets are priced accordingly, and if you do not have that many sats, you probably don't want to have a much more expensive wallet to start with, right?
Yeah.
So in that meantime, you can put it in a hot wallet, and when you have a considerable or decent amount, then you want to move it from there.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's spot on actually. Do you think it's because at a point that you mentioned that Gen Z today, it's so different that the time frame has changed for a Gen Z person to buy a house as compared to someone previously from 29 to 40. That decade has moved over. A house, so they need to focus on career, house, retirement, all that. Does Bitcoin change that in your timeline, or is it just the mindset while the timeline stays hard?
I think Bitcoin definitely can change that depending at the speed you are accumulating the Bitcoin. So if you're someone who is, you start when you're, let's say 17, 18, your first paycheck, you're putting a considerable amount of it into Bitcoin, and that's your savings account. That's the only thing that you're buying. You don't have a Roth IRA or anything. Then I'd say, yeah, I think Bitcoin can change your timeline. And I think that, I would never advocate for someone to sell their Bitcoin, but, at one point they'd get to a point where they can probably sell a chunk of it to have a house. Or what they can do is borrow against their Bitcoin as well, right? So I would say it definitely can. For me, I don't think it changes the timeline because I'm not someone that would ever consider selling my Bitcoin or borrowing against my Bitcoin or anything. To me, that
Smart.
is a protection of
Against the
my
system.
my future when I'm
Yeah.
like 70, 80 years old, and then obviously my bloodline's future.
Hmm.
So that's what it is for me. I think my
Hmm.
mindset has definitely shifted because I don't feel as negative about the workforce anymore. I don't feel as much doom and gloom about the fact that, I might not get a job, I might not be able to
Hmm.
make some money anymore, because I know that what I'm able to put in now will continue growing for me. And as long as I can get that like $10 DCA and just keep that up, I should be okay. So for me, it's a mindset thing. It provides the comfort that things are never going to reach the absolute worst, and I always will have something to fall back on. But I guess I can see how for some people it would move up the timeline a little bit.
Spot on. You mentioned DCA here, and in the interest of time, I'll try to rush things up faster. I don't want to hold you up either. DCA, right? So, dollar cost averaging, guys, according to me, is one of the best strategies, whether you're new, intermediate, experienced, does not matter. It takes the emotion out of emotion out of your mind, whatever is happening in the markets, whatever news is happening, whatever, the fear and greed index is at 9, I think today, 9 or 10, last I
Yeah,
checked, and perfect. That's like the perfect time I want to buy, right? I want to buy
yep.
it when the fear and greed index is at extreme fear. I don't want to buy it when it's at greedy level highs, but I don't want to sell either. But I'm a guy who'll continue to DCA regardless of the price action. I might stack more when the markets are down in the red. That is my own personal
Mhm.
strategy. Talking about DCA, if you don't mind, Nikki, I want to share something on my screen for a quick bit. Okay. So this screen, what you see, smart accumulator tab. Well, because we were talking about dollar cost averaging, one of my very old friends, his name is Thomas Macon. He designed this program. This is essentially it takes in account the weave app, so the volume weighted average price, and basically it's DCA on steroids. Right. That's what I wanted to put it as. It's dollar cost averaging on steroids. So it works for all assets, right? Some, but we only talk about Bitcoin. And but it will do the same for any stock index, or it does not matter. So basically, it's an indicator. It's an indicator. It's called Smart Accumulate. It identifies statistically significant dip opportunities across three time frames, and it deploys your capital with that precision. So there's no guessing or there's no missing key levels. I just wanted to share this because it's been back tested for 4 years. Like, it's not that he introduced it, created it right now. For 4 years, he's been testing this. So these are this. If people want to do that and do it in a smarter way, if you just want a dollar cost average, that is also okay. You can use, there are multiple apps for that. I personally use the Amber app to do it, but you can do it at many places. But if you want to do it something with more precision and attack it so that your sats increase over time, they have these inbuilt tools. They have like buckets, so that you have like a large bucket, medium bucket, small bucket, based on how much portfolio you want to allocate, how much money you want to allocate, and stuff like that. Pretty much, I think it's a $29 per month, built monthly. These are the things that you get in it. I am just sharing it because it is an awesome tool. I'm not sure whether he's released it yet, so you're probably the first person in the world that's seeing it right now. And
That is so
I mean,
insane.
apart from Tom and myself, obviously. Um, yeah. So, guys, I'll leave the link in there to that's $29 a month. It gives you the biggest key levels of when to accumulate over a longer period of time. I think it's an excellent tool. It just adds that indicator to your trading view, and it just does its work, right? Advantage, and obviously successfully back tested for years. Or you can simply dollar cost average. That's also up to you. Nikki, when you mentioned about talking to about Gen Z, you would have friends, right? And everybody uses credit cards or buy now, pay later, afterpay, Zip, whatever. How do you talk to people who are drowning in credit card debt or buy now, pay later debt without sounding superior, without, you know, highlighting empathy in financial conversations, kind of stuff? How do you do
So
that?
everyone is in debt, especially in college. Everyone is in some kind of debt. So it's not rare for Gen Z to be, feeling financial burden or feeling stressed financially. And that's something that I try to highlight, right? Everyone has to start somewhere. And yes, you might be discovering, things about money a little bit later than you should be, but at least you're doing it now and not 10 years down the line, right? So, of course, when the traditional financial advice is get credit cards and then obviously go to college, take a student loan and everything, and pay it off at a certain like percentage every year. Invest in the S&P 500, make your 8 to 10% returns, and just be happy with that.
Hmm.
You're not going to feel comfortable, and that's okay. That's how we were told to grow up, but that's not the only path, right? Bitcoin is an alternative path that protects you.
Hmm.
If you're in it to make returns, at least it makes returns that are, greater than inflation. It outpaces that. Not that I'm
Hmm.
saying you should be in it to make returns, you should be in it for protection, for savings. But still, as for buy now, pay laters, if you don't have the money to be spending on something now, you don't have the money you shouldn't be spending on it at all. That's what I have to say to that. There are obviously, a few places I see buy now, pay laters as okay. Medical
Hmm.
expenses, say
Yep.
you need like a laptop for college or something and you just can't afford it right now. Fair. You should not be buy now, pay latering like your Chipotle or
Hmm.
your Sephora order or anything like that. Anything that's not a necessity. So, yeah, I mean, to that, all I have to say is everyone starts somewhere. I'm just happy that, my friends are curious now and choosing to learn about it now as opposed to 10, 15 years down the line.
Yeah. Perfect. Spot on. You don't. There's no right or wrong as such. If there are certain things you want to use it for, and as you rightfully said, if it's for a laptop, if it's something, the difference between need and want.
Yes.
Well, I want to eat what, like a Whopper meal. I'm not gonna I don't want to use my, you know, buy now, pay later. Oh, why don't I just cook a meal or make something? You can do the 80-20 rule, or whether you need it, whether you want it, and that's just what you uh, what you want to do. So yeah, absolutely spot on. It's Nikki, we'll just do a quick couple of lightning fast questions for you. Most overrated money advice.
Invest in index funds. There's no need.
All right, I agree with that. One belief you changed your mind on since finding Bitcoin.
Needing to buy a house.
Smart. Hardest thing about being Gen Z in this economy.
Older generations believing that we're lazy and that we, are financially illiterate and don't want to work and just want everything handed to us.
Okay, I'll accept that. AI tool you cannot live without.
Claude AI. I love it to use it to code.
I thought you'd say that. Best 30-second orange pill.
The money is broken. The government is actually stealing your future as we speak. You need a money that they can't make more of. Basic Econ 101. Choose Bitcoin. Be happy.
Study Bitcoin, yes.
Yes.
If you could delete one mainstream misconception about Bitcoin, what is it?
There are a lot going around right now, but I'll go back to the basics and I'll say that it's a magic internet money. It is an internet money. Well, it's a money made for the internet, but it's internet money the same way. Like when you are tapping Apple Pay, that's internet money. That's not physical stuff that you're holding. So why is Bitcoin any different?
Wonderful. Nikki, so you use obviously in your daily life AI tools to build and distribute. Use that into your Bitcoin lifestyle for savings, time preference, financial sovereignty, and so on and so forth, right? What does a successful Gen Z life look to you if you master both?
I think using AI to monetize one of your hobbies and storing that money that you make in Bitcoin and just keeping liquid what you need to survive. That's what the successful Gen Z life looks like to me right now. I really, really like obviously talking and learning new things and meeting people. So what do? I make content. I use AI to plan that content. I use AI to make my thumbnails, to edit some things, right? I'm using AI to monetize what I like to do. And then I've got obviously everything that I can get from this, I put it into Bitcoin. And that is what is successful to me. Same example as when, I talked about my friend who wants to start a label and make some clothes. She enjoys that. That's her hobby. Use AI to make it into a business super quickly. Take what you get, take a percentage of it, put it into Bitcoin. Everything else, just use it to survive. So yeah, free up your time. Think about what you like to do. Think about how you can make that into a business and just get cracking.
Amazing. Any last advice or message that you want to give to the listeners, or if you have viewers?
Yeah, so if you are not Gen Z, but you have Gen Z in your life, start inspiring some Bitcoin curiosity. Start asking them questions about what they're experiencing with money, what they know about money, and then try to connect that back to Bitcoin. Show them the light, but don't push them into it. And I promise you that will yield the results that you want. If you are Gen Z and you're listening to this, if you're not a Bitcoiner, same thing. Think about the money that you have in your life. Are you making some? What are you doing with what you're making? Are you investing? Same sort of questions. Ask yourself where you see yourself 10, 15 years down the line and how financially you want to get there, because I promise you the answer is going to be Bitcoin. If you are Gen Z and a Bitcoiner, congratulations. Yeah, super cool.
Absolutely. You have nailed it. You have nailed it for yourself and for your future generations. Nikki, once again, thank you so much for taking out your time today and coming to my podcast. It was a wonderful chat. I hope you felt the same.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And just before closing, are you into fitness? So when I get people for fitness, I obviously give them information on Bitcoin, but when it's the other way around. So when do you do anything? Do you play any sports or anything?
Yeah. So I used to swim a lot in high school. Now that I moved out to
Nice.
college, I don't do that as much, but gotten super into the gym, starting to get back into running. So yeah, also since finding Bitcoin, I've been like, okay, we need to get back into running and being like, making sure that the things that I'm choosing in my life are actually good for my like physical well-being as well.
Excellent. Sound habits and sound money and sound health.
Yes.
And on this channel, this is what we say, right? Stack sats, build strength, and own your life. Last time when I had Anya here, I said, Anya, all right, next time, whenever I'll have a pod with Nikki, and then I'm going to organize like a 12-week or a 16-week challenge for you ladies, and then, get you accountable. And then you guys can
Yeah, sweet.
cross check each other. So that would be a fun and fun way to do that. And obviously, people who follow you, you can get them on board and just getting people active and healthy. So awesome.
Yes.
Thanks again, Nikki. You've been great. Thank you so much. And really happy to meet you. All the best for your uni and your studies and for stacking sats. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
You're welcome.